Hi, Perennial Pride listeners. Thanks for joining me on this episode. So today I'm here by myself and want to share a topic, especially in this time of year. We're having changing seasons. It's actually a pretty fun time of year, especially me being a sports fan. It's really fun. You got all these sports happening, ending and starting, and it's a ton of fun. And although I love summer, I love warmth. It's fun to see the changing seasons. Right. For some people, they don't get to see those seasons. So, coming from summer to fall and see the beauty, although I'm colorblind, I still can get a sense of the colors. So it's fun. And you see leaves falling and you get a little chill, which sometimes it's nice. And, I'm not a massive fan of winter, but, that's coming down the pike too. So, but when you look at things like that, there's things in our lives that we can expect those changes to occur and prepare for them. Right? We know they're going to happen. Now, they may not be exactly what we anticipate, but we can, kind of prepare for them. And those changes are going to come just like seasons. And we can anticipate what's going to happen and do some planning ahead of time. But in our lives, unfortunately, and I take this cue from, some of the principles in Buddhism, is this concept of impermanence. Things never stay the same. Change is expected in our lives. And there's a concept, then a phrase, nothing is permanent except change. And so having that in mind really helps us prepare and put in place things that we can have options and better choices. A lot of it, the plans that we put in place, especially financially, we can oversimplify them that if we, save X dollars over 30, 40 years, it will turn into $1 million. This is what you hear from some of the gurus. But, what are things that are going to take that away from us? What are things that could happen along the way to disrupt that? Even if we have the best laid plans, things can happen that could sort of change the course and cause us to pivot. And so thinking that way helps us to say, what can we put in place so that when things happen in our lives, we're able to be in a position of power and have options, and not just options that are bad, but good options that we can rest assured that the things we want for our families can still happen. And we have the power to pivot to something that might be actually better. Challenges in life are going to happen. And so we can look at them in a more positive way because we, one, prepare. And two is that we know they're going to come. It will give us sort of strength and certainly the mental and emotional fortitude to kind of push forward and look at them in a more positive way. And that's why we so focus on here on ensuring that our protections in our lives are solid, like that foundation. And the foundation in our lives can help us prepare for those things that are going to change and that we cannot always control. So we can control our preparation for them. And that's why one of the core aspects of our foundation is the family bank. And whether it's infinite banking, whatever you want to call it, it's just controlling the banking function in our lives while secondarily protecting our lives and ensuring that if it's a self-completing sort of tool and strategy that will bring funds and resources to our families' lives if the unimaginable happens, whether we die or get disabled, all those sorts of bad things. So what sometimes stops people, though, in this approach, even though when they fully understand the power of using a family bank or the banking strategy, is that it seems so long run. What could happen along the way? Do I have to continue to fund this policy and contribute to it for the rest of my life? And if you understood it and see the value as this concept and financial tool kind of continues to move forward, it becomes more efficient and powerful. And so you might want to contribute to it for the rest of your life. But just like we started this podcast, things will change. And what if I can't contribute to it? Will this thing fall apart? And we've often heard of the inflexible nature of funding a whole life permanent policy. And yes, for some of them that, especially early on, if you're not designed in the way of building cash faster, yes, there are some risks associated with that you may have zero cash early on. But the policies that we design that are more built for family banking in building up cash earlier, you'll have some cash early on, even in the first year, a substantial amount of cash. So how can we fund this thing in cases that our lives change and we can't fund it out of our own pocket or income or assets? So here today, I want to share with you some ways that you could continue to fund your policies, keep them alive and thriving in times of change. When you lose a job or you have disruption, some other aspect of your life, that you can still maintain and keep this tremendous asset in your life and continue to benefit from it for the rest of your life. So option one really starts with thinking of how to leverage this asset to create income producing assets. There's always talk of having multiple streams of income in our lives to really give us more wealth and power to use our money as much as we want and how we want. And so one of the things early on is thinking about how can we leverage our cash value that we are generating, saving in our own family bank, but then utilizing the life insurance company's money by borrowing against our policy to create assets, whether it be in real estate or private lending in your own business that could serve as another stream of income. If that happens, what if you can actually use those streams of income to pay for your policies along the way? So you don't have to be reliant on, your job or something to produce that. So that's a first pass. Now that takes some time, obviously, is learning where you want to deploy it, how to create cash flowing assets, because we're often taught just to stash money away. And then maybe we get to use it when we're 59 and a half and pretty much push it away from our lives until that day. Well, we obviously are trying to encourage the use of those dollars now to create income today. And so that comes with a little bit of time and maturation and understanding where you're investing in. So that's really where we want to get people to anyway. But that takes some time. So creating some assets that it can create income and gives you some buffer, so you don't actually have to create it yourself from your job. So that's one. So say you haven't gotten to there yet, or still learning where to invest, but you're storing cash, or you're putting a contribution into your policy, and what happens if you lose your job? Well, in that scenario, there are a host of options here. So one is simply when you're funding your policies, the most efficient way to fund it is annually. You make one annual premium that covers the full year for your policy, and the cash is there available to leverage if you've designed this properly. But you can switch to monthly, right? So you can take your annual payment and switch it to monthly. So your anniversary comes around and you say, oh, all right, I just lost my job and I need to get back to looking for a job. I can't fund this policy annually, this large lump sum. Then you can switch it to monthly. And there's that flexibility in the policy. So you can do it monthly and over a course of time, lower your contribution in that given year. And then when, say, you get a new job and get your footing back in terms of your income streams, then you can switch it to annual. And that flexibility is built in through the life of the policy. So you can kind of turn it off and on. And I've done that for myself. I've had to pause for various reasons, whether it's through investments or changes in life, and you have that flexibility. And then when things get back to a solid footing, then you can resume the annual payments and contributions into your policy. So that's one simplistic way to do it. You don't have to fund it the same way every single year. The second option is really centered around having some cash available. So that's why when we design these sort of family banking policies and utilizing this broader strategy, we're storing cash, right? This is just an alternative to storing your money in a bank account. And I'm not saying you don't have any money there, but this is supplemental. And once you start understanding the power of it, that you're likely going to want to store even more wealth here. But having a lot of cash here, especially early on, is key, because if something happens in the first couple of years, and this is when you're capitalizing the family bank, and it's the time that, certainly some of your liquidity is locked up. There's no doubt about that. But that's why having money elsewhere is key, right? You have that liquidity, but having some money in the policy is also very beneficial, because say in the first year, You start it and you may have, I don't know, between 50 to 70% of what you contributed available as cash. If something happens in that first year, you can borrow from that policy, from the life insurance company as coffers, their general account, and use that to fund monthly or annual premiums while you get your other aspects of your life sorted, right? If we go back to the losing job situation, hopefully you're going to be looking for new jobs and new opportunities. And in that time, you can borrow against your policy to fund your policies if you need to, right? So that's another tremendous option. And you pay that back when you want to, just like normal function within these sorts of policies. The loan provision allows you to borrow against that and you pay it back on your terms. Yes, there's an interest that is accumulating in there, that you're accruing there. But once you pay that back, then you can open up and have those dollars freed up again for you to use in the future. So very flexible, just like a home equity line of credit that you may be accustomed to against your house. So that's just another basic way to garner some flexibility in your account and keep and maintain the policy for short run hiccups here and there. Now, through the cash value life insurance policy, and certainly through a mutual insurance company, not a stock owned public company, that you are eligible to receive dividends every year. And they're not guaranteed, just there is a guaranteed portion of cash that builds up, but the dividends, it's a return of premiums as well as profitability of the company. You, as taking on this strategy, you are, as an insured person and as a policy owner, you are part of the company. You get profitability of the company. So that comes through the form of a dividend every year. And like I said, it's not guaranteed, but they've been paying them for well over 100 plus years for the companies we use. So you can actually use that dividend in the early stages. I would encourage you to use them to buy additional life insurance policies that are completely paid off, and you're building up more cash and building up more death benefit. But in short run needs, you can divert that dividend to actually be used to pay for your next year's premiums. You can take that dividend and use it to pay a portion of your premium for the next year when needed. So you have that option. You can pick that any year, and it's very flexible to divert it to that need to help fund the future premium payment. And later in life, that's going to be an option you may want to choose if you don't want to fund this through your out of pocket anymore. That you can have a very solid, efficient policy being built up, that the dividends are going to be pretty sizable, and sometimes they're going to exceed your annual premium. And so you can use those dividends to actually pay for future premiums and not come out of pocket. So that's a really powerful option, but certainly early on, to get the momentum of the policy going, we certainly encourage the use of those dividends to purchase additional insurance and builds up an asset and the cash value. Now, if you've done this and if you've built up cash value, you're buying additional insurance through the course of dividends or your paid up additions, which is a cash infusion of your policies, then you have the right to be able to sell off some of your insurance. So imagine this is an asset that you have, right? If you're buying these paid up additions and pieces of insurance that now, if needed, you could sell off some of your insurance. Now, I certainly wouldn't want to do this early, but again, if needed, this is another option that you can sell portions of your assets to pay for your premiums. And so you can ask them, it's your money that you've contributed, so you can take that money back out and pay for premiums. Now, the money you did take out, you can't replace that, unfortunately. So that's why I wouldn't do that early in the process and disrupt it. But, it at least gives you another option down the line here. And then two last options I want to share around here. And this again is something that I would probably not encourage early in a policy. Is one, you can elect a reduced paid up policy. So you can say, okay, well, I don't want to pay into this anymore. Just give me the equivalent of a fully paid off life insurance policy. I don't have to contribute. What's since given the amount of what I've contributed to the policy, what's the death benefit now is completely paid off? And you may want to consider that down the road, but as you to learn these things, once you get to learn these things, you're going to see how efficient these policies get. You likely may not want to do that, but it is an option. And the last one, which you have to be careful too, and I'm not encouraging or discouraging, but it's an option because this is an asset. You can actually sell this policy. So in cases there are brokers who do this, they can buy your policy from you, give you more than your cash value because you can benefit from the death benefit, right? For people who are buying this asset, they want the death benefit because it's going to be typically bigger. It's always going to be bigger than your cash value until the age 121. So there's always going to be a spread between the cash value in the policy and the death benefit. So there is an attractiveness to buy this policy, especially when it's very efficient. So that's, to me, kind of a last resort. It is an option. So it's just wanted to put that on the table. So you can see, I mean, I shared quite a lot of detail. Certainly talk to your insurance agent and expert, or certainly reach out to me. I can share this in more detail. But know full well, if designed properly, there are so many options to fund your policy that don't require you to come out of pocket. And so I want to hopefully give you some insights around this, alleviate some concern around getting into this. Now, granted, this overall family banking, infinite banking strategy is a long-term strategy. So I want you to fully understand it, grasp what it's doing. But once you do, just know full well that all along the way in life, as we've talked about from the beginning of this podcast, things will change. And that's why having ample reserves is great, and certainly protections for our families so that they're going to have resources in the case of death and disability so they can continue to live the life you want for them. And prepare for that because it might happen, unfortunately, and we don't want to be left flat-footed for our families so that they can't live the lives that we want them to. So I'm going to end this episode here and just leave you with the knowledge that these things are not as inflexible as people may have you believe, and it just takes some learning and education to fully grasp it and understand that there's a lot of flexibility, and that's what we try to build into all of our financial plans and strategies, because life will throw us curveballs all the time. We just have to be ready for them and be prepared and be able to take that obstacle and see the potential and to help us grow and build off of it. So I hope this was helpful, and certainly reach out if you have more questions. Put some time on my calendar. I'd love to chat, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Perennial Pride Podcast. Thanks for joining me on this episode today. I really am grateful for you as listeners to the Perennial Pride Podcast. I hope you're getting some tremendous value out of it and hopefully pushing you along your journey to financial freedom. I put this podcast together really to help you get more educated around your finances so that you feel empowered to live the life that you really want. And if you like the content that you heard today or watched, then I would encourage you to go to my website, perennialpride.com. There's tons of other content there. And you can access my book, Wealth Beyond the Numbers. You can buy it there on my website. It's a aggregation of a lot of great tips and tools I've learned to not only build my wealth in my accounts, but build wealth in my life and abundance and joy, and something that has a lot of my experiences in the journey that I've been on personally. Hopefully that can be also of value to you as you sort of move forward. So thanks again for being a Perennial Pride listener, and we'll see you on the next episode.